The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 10, Peach Blossom Wine. This one is not sleepy yet. Hearing the words return to the room, Mu Hanzhang's ears turned even redder. Jing Xiao felt that his wife's expressions were truly adorable. He raised his hand to close the boring law book and then pulled his wife up as he said, "Coincidentally, I am also not tired yet. Let's go. I will take you somewhere." "Your Highness." Mu Hanzhang stood up shakily as he was being pushed up. Seeing his husband's eagerness, he could not help but to follow him out while comforting himself that maybe he would forget his request of appreciation gift after a little while. From the small study room, they arrived at the garden after going around and around for some time. "Wait for a while." Jing Xiao stooped under the rockery and dug in its cavern. Soon after, he found a small basket with a lid. "What is this?" Mu Hanzhang was a little curious. There were such things hidden in the garden of the Prince Cheng's estate. Jing Xiao, who looked like a child secretly hiding their toy, mischievously laughed and did not answer. He just pulled him up to climb the tallest pagoda in the garden, which had a delicate octagonal pavilion built above. "Hold this." Jing Xiao handed the small basket to his wife beside him. After he took it, Jing Xiao reached out and took his wife into his arms. "Your Highness!" Mu Hanzhang exclaimed. But before he could react further, he was already on the top of the pavilion. "This is the highest spot in the Prince Cheng's estate." Jing Xiao smiled and sat down between the tiles. He then patted the space beside him and urged, "Come and sit down." Mu Hanzhang had to slowly sit beside him. The top of the pavilion was slanted, making him felt that he would slide down at any time. When Jing Xiao saw his cautious movements, he thought it was funny. He reached out and grabbed his wife by the waist as he said, "I am here. I won't let you fall." Jing Xiao forcefully brought his wife close to his body and Mu Hanzhang could only shift and try to sit comfortably. He noticed that the hands on his waist have no intention of letting go and had no choice but to let them be. After all, they had already kowtowed to the heavens and the earth. Since no one was around, there was also no need to observe proper decorum. Even if Jing Xiao wanted to do something more than this, he also couldn't resist. Seeing that there were no objections coming from the person beside him, Jing Xiao continued to generously embrace him as he said, "This star-catching pavilion is my favorite place in the estate. On a clear night, a whole sky full of stars is clearly visible." Mu Hanzhang looked up following his hand. Sure enough, there was only a sky full of stars with no obstruction to the sight whatsoever. All around them was the starry sky, making one felt as they had become one with the Milky Way. The corner of his mouth could not help but smile and he said, "It's truly beautiful. I have never seen anything like it before, such a complete canopy of star." He is an illegitimate son and could not be willful and make a scene like Mu Lingbao. He had grown up in the Marquis of Beiwei estate and his every action was done while keeping the proper etiquette in mind, as everyone was waiting for him to make a misstep so they could make fun of it. Let alone climbing roof, if he was caught, who knew what kind of rewards would his father gave him? "Have you never climbed a tree when you were young?" Jing Xiao asked, a little surprised. Young boys ought to be very mischievous. When he was young, he would often climb the trees in the garden till he reached the bird's nest. In the middle of the night, he would also climb to the top of the tree to watch the stars. When he was discovered by the servants, he would be spanked by his imperial mother, though his mother could not bear to hit him harshly, so the next day he would continue to misbehave. When he heard of young Jing Xiao's great achievements, Mu Hanzhang couldn't help but laugh out. He didn't expect that a prince like him could be this handful when he was a boy. Yet, he couldn't help but to envy him. When he was young, he wasn't cared for by anyone. His mother wasn't well educated and could only teach him how to prepare bills and read the accounts, which his father found out later on. He got angry. That lasted for quite some time. He said that his mother had been a bad influence on him. Then he sent him to study in school and forbid his mother from speaking to him from there on. You started studying so early. No wonder at such a young age you're already like an old man. Jing Shao could not help but to laugh at him. Mu Hanshang glared at him as he said, Your Highness' age is not far from mine. Aya, Jing Shao accidentally had a slip of the tongue. In the past life, he lived till his 30s. Naturally, he felt that upon his return, the current Junqing was still very young. He could not help but to awkwardly touch his nose and took the small basket at the side to divert the topic. This is the peach blossoms wine which was highly valued. Every year, I can only have this small jar of it. Here, try it. In the basket was a small white porcelain jar and 2 small porcelain cups of the same color. Jing Shao removed the bottle cork and poured 2 cups of clear wine which was of a faint pink color in the white porcelain cup. Your Highness had already drank so much wine in the afternoon, don't drink any more. Mu Hanzhong took the cup and held down the hand that contained the cup of wine which Jing Shao wanted to drink. Haha, that little amount of wine already dispersed. When I was in the barracks, there's not much strong liquor that I had not tried before. Jing Shao unconcernedly said, This wine is very light, you won't get drunk even if you drink 10 jars of it. Mu Hanzhong heard his words, then raised his hand to take a sip from the cup of wine. A clear sweet taste with a touch of floral fragrance filled his lips and mouth with the scent of peach blossoms. As he swallowed, he could not help but drink the whole cup. Seeing that he liked it, Jing Shao handed the bottle to him. After all, one of his hands was still placed on the other man's waist, making it inconvenient for him to continue holding on the bottle. The Marquis of Beiwei's generations are all fierce. Why didn't your father taught you to practice martial arts? Jing Shao had always been very curious about this fact. The Marquis of Beiwei did not distinguish between the ranking of sons. All of them must learn some martial arts, however Junqing does not even know of any. Mu Hanzhong heard him asked about this matter and the brilliance in his eyes instantly darkened. He silently poured a glass of wine for himself and replied, When I was a child, my meridians were ruined by the cold and the doctor said that I could not practice martial arts any longer. What? Jing Shao looked at him with astonishment. How can it be ruined by the cold? He was a young master of the Marquis of Beiwei estate. Even if his position was not up to par with the legitimate children, who would dare to mistreat him so badly? During the coldest day of winter, I fell into an icy pond. Mu Hanzhong drank the wine in the cup and poured himself another one. His lips curved into a self-deprecating smile. It is his heart's regrets that he couldn't practice martial arts. When he was a child, his father said that he had a good foundation. He also thought of teaching him the family's traditional marksmanship. Later, after the doctor said that he could no longer practice martial arts, his father rarely showed interest in him. Then when he saw him simply calculating with the abacus in the room, he got mad and threw his abacus, then sent the then 4-year-old him to a family school. Jing Shao frowned as he watched him drink one cup of wine after another. He took the cup away and said, This peach blossom wine needs to be drank delicately. It shouldn't be drunk like that. This one caused His Highness to feel ridiculed. Mu Hanzhong smiled bitterly and stored the cup into the small basket. It is getting late. Oh, his body was suddenly pulled and he fell into Jing Shao's embrace. Who pushed you down? Jing Shao's eyes, which were seldom gloomy, now looked as if there's a storm brewing in it. The ponds within the household of even a regular rich family were built with stone border. Besides, if a young master were to run to the pond to play, he didn't believe that there wouldn't servants following him around. How could they not do something and just watched their young master fell in the pond during winter? I fell off by myself. Mu Hanzhong lowered his eyes and refused to say more. Before his eyes, the lotus pond of that year emerged. As he was still very young then, he could no longer remember much of the details of what happened then. He only recalled that his grandmother made him a new white like snow, rabbit fur cloak, then a small fatty who was taller than him by 2 heads with a handful of pastry, flakes, then it was the ice-cold pond water and the snowy gray sky. Jing Shao looked at the person in his arms and could only feel his own heart hurting. He slowly lowered his head and dropped a kiss to his wife's half-lidded eyes. When his wife opened his eyes in surprise, Jing Shao did not stop. He continued to kiss his eyebrows, his forehead, then his cheeks, one after another, as if this way he could save him from that ice-cold nightmare. "Your Highness," Mu Hanzhang's body stiffened. When Jing Shao kissed his mouth, he couldn't help but let out a moan. Jing Shao sat up, seeing a sky full of stars reflected in the beautiful eyes of the person in his arms. He could not help but hold him tightly to his chest and declared, "I will take revenge for you." His wife was such a wonderful person. He wanted to embrace him tightly in his arms but was so afraid of hurting him, and yet, someone dared to hurt him like this. He could imagine little Junqing being pushed into the water during the coldest day of winter. He must have been so scared. It must have been so cold. It must have been so painful. Feeling the powerful tight embrace from behind him, Mu Hanzhang slowly reached back and hugged back the arms around him as he allowed himself to be fragile for a moment, a little sad for a moment and a bit greedy for this warmth. The next day, Jing Shao had changed into his outer robes after he ate breakfast and said, "I have to go out today. I'm not sure if I could make it back for lunch." "All right." Mu Hanzhang helped him hang his jade pendant on his waist and did not ask where he was going. In celebration of their marriage, the emperor has excused Prince Cheng from attending the morning court session for 9 days. If Prince Cheng was going out at this time, it was definitely not to attend the morning court session. However, Mu Hanzhang felt that it was no good for him to inquire too much. "I will definitely return before dinner. If you feel bored, you can take 2 guards and go out for a walk." Jing Shao noticed that he didn't ask where he was going and therefore could not help but say a few more words. "I heard that there's a garden at the south of the capital where male wives often go to get together and have fun." "Really? This is the first time this consort heard about it?" Seeing his husband's "if you don't take me seriously, I will continue to talk" expression, Mu Hanzhang could not help but laugh faintly, and finally agreed to check it out. Jing Shao went out with his heart full of satisfaction. When he walked to the outer courtyard, he called for Steward Yun and instructed, "Go investigate how the Marquis of Beiwei's illegitimate son fell into an icy pond when he was young." "Yes, Your Highness." "This servant will immediately do so." Steward Yun have a long beard and the appearance of a wise elderly. "Would His Highness prefer to ride in the carriage or ride a horse?" "I'll ride a horse." After saying that, Jing Shao's young servant, Yun Song, brought a black stallion and walked over. Jing Shao caressed the horse's shiny hair and said, "Xiao He, long time no see." "Nay," the black horse snorted, then intimately rubbed against Jing Shao. Xiao He was a wild horse that he tamed from the grassland. Its temper was unyielding. Though it was not a purebred horse, it completely surpassed those horses of other high-ranking military officers because it was much more intelligent compared to other horses. It knew how to avoid obstacles by itself. At that time, if Xiao He was there, he and Junqing would not have been forced into a corner until they had no choice but to jump off a cliff. However, if it were like that, then he would not have the opportunity to redo everything once again. This was probably what people called fortune within a misfortune, or was it misfortune within a fortune? Who can clearly decide? Master Li visited yesterday and said that it was nothing important. After he heard that His Highness was not around, he left. Steward Yun reported on what happened yesterday. Li Yanqing. Seeing Steward Yun nodded, Jing Shao frowned. This person was the last person recorded in the dark blue ledger. If he comes again, you ask him to go wait at Ju Xian restaurant the next afternoon. As His Highness commands. Steward Yun answered, then he watched as Jing Shao rode the horse out. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 11, Villa. The black steed carrying the handsome prince rushed through the streets where the common people scrambled out of the way while those who set up stalls looked on. Did you see? If you keep on being noisy, then we'll just let Prince Cheng take you away. The woman who was selling vegetables threw down her basket and pointed to the silhouette flying by as she admonished the child who wouldn't stop crying. Jing Hao was reining in his horse to slow down and happened to hear this exchange. He could not help but knit his brows. Rumor has it that Prince Cheng is a tyrant who killed 100,000 prisoners of war while he was on the battlefield. Just the mention of his name causes young children to have nightmares. In the previous lifetime, this was the justification of those courtiers who were accusing him of official misconduct. He killed 100,000 prisoners of war? How ridiculous! During the campaign against the Xiongnu nomads, he himself brought only 50,000 troops and horses while the entire Xiongnu military did not even total to 100,000 people. During that time, he led 2,000 troops to surround the Xiongnu with their general, trying to urge them to surrender, but those people's nature was fierce, they would not surrender even at the face of death. He had no recourse but to battle them to death wave by wave. At the very end, the enemy's general tried to take a group of soldiers to break out of the enclosure and was beheaded by Jing Shao. The living people that they had captured then was less than 500. However, each and every one of them hated the mainland soldiers to the bone. If he did not have them killed, they would have caused them endless trouble. It turned out that these exaggerated rumors began circulating since that time. ******. The weather was sunny and cloudless today as the ray of sun slid in from the open window, making the wide sandalwood desk warm. Mu Hanjiang sat at the desk, holding an accounting ledger and carefully checking his dowry. The Marquis of Beiwei household had extensive businesses, but it was a large family. After calculating, the total amount of property allocated to him amounted to less than 30,000 silver taels. His mother, who did the accounting, had looked through it and could not pick out any issue with it. Although 30,000 taels seemed substantial, it also did not let him receive any additional advantages, as his property was mainly consisted of untouchable villages or fields. Moreover, they could not give him any ancestral properties or land. Also, after the passing of the new year, the actual silver given to him was now basically nothing. Even some of the silver was already used for his wedding attire and other expenses related to his wedding. Also, he recalled that in the eastern outskirts of his land was a barren forest where only thorny black locust tree grew, as the soil on it was craggy and full of rocks, making it impossible to plant anything there. It was also not suitable for building a courtyard. It was basically a wasteland, and yet this piece of land accounted for most of his dowry. Mu Hanjiang sneered. Madame Du was really not afraid of people criticizing her behind her back. The fact was, he basically had no cash in his hands. The 100,000 taels that his mother gave him was a lump sum, and he did not want to use this sum of money unless it was absolutely necessary. Your Highness, the secondary consort has come to the east courtyard. Yun Shu scuttled into the study and said in a panic. What does she want by coming here? Mu Hanjiang frowned and put the ledgers into the cabinet. Didn't she just come over after breakfast to pay respects? It must be about the matter of household accounts. If she says that it will take a few months to hand over the account books, Your Highness must not agree to her. Yunzu wrinkled his nose, his tone quite resentful. Mu Hanjiang didn't say anything upon hearing this. He only invited Lady Song into his small study. Song Lingzin smiled ingratiatingly as she walked in and said, This concubine hopes that Prince Consort would forgive this concubine for the sudden visit. Mu Hanjiang found dealing with her quite tedious, so after exchanging a couple of pleasantries, he asked her directly what the issue was. According to the customs, after the Prince Consort has crossed the threshold, all the economic affairs of the household should be handed over to you. It's just that, Prince Cheng's estate always distributed the silver at the first of every month. There are many affairs this month, so handing this over to the Prince Consort at this time, this one is afraid that things might go wrong. So, this concubine wanted to ask the Prince Consort to let this subordinate retain it. Song Lingzin said with a smile. Mu Hanjiang looked down and played with the white jade paperweight on the table, his thumb unconsciously rubbing the smooth and rounded edge. This was a small habit he had when he was thinking about things. Since that's the case, you may continue to manage it for a few days. As for the supervision of the other concubines, I will wait for His Highness to return tonight and then we will discuss it. Seeing that this person was not bothered at all, Song Lingxin's complexion turned green. Shortly afterwards, she smiled again and said, "But of course, we have to ask His Highness' opinion, it's just that this one didn't think it wasn't necessary for me to mention it. Though there's one more thing." As she said this, she put a small book from her hands down onto the table. "What is this?" Mu Hanjiang glanced at it. Theirs was no title written on the cover of the book and only has a painted peony flower. These are the arrangements for the dates of bedside service. As Song Lingxin spoke, she felt that discussing these things with a male consort was a little embarrassing, but they couldn't just not talk about it. "This concubine has talked it over with our two younger sisters, and we wrote all of the discussed dates on there and would like the prince consort to look over it. The earlier we can determine this, the better, as it will permit us to prepare the management arrangements." This subject also made Mu Hanjiang somewhat uncomfortable, and so after expressing that he understood, he waved his hand to dismiss her back to the west courtyard. ******. In the suburbs of the capital, at Prince Cheng's villa. This villa was bestowed upon him by the emperor. Behind it was a tall, inclined mountain, and on the mountain was lush green vegetation and the babbling of brooks. It was the villa he stayed at during the summertime. This subordinate greets His Highness. Once he entered the villa, a tall man in black clothing took the lead, stepping forth to make their salutations. "Where is Renfeng?" Jing Shao handed the horse to one of the servants welcoming him and asked the big man dressed in black. "The commander is in the martial arts practice field, this subordinate will go fetch him." "No need, you can just follow me to go take a look." Jing Hao placed both his hands behind his back, not rushing but not moving too slowly either, through the round, wooden porch, heading west of the villa. The area of the villa was much larger than that of the Prince Cheng's estate in the city. The entire west side had been converted into a martial arts practice field. In the center of the field was a 3-foot-high wooden platform where the weaponry was placed on a rack on top of the platform. At this time, 2 people wearing gray imperial bodyguard uniforms were busily sparring on the platform. One person wielded a broadsword and the other wielded a spear. One would attack the other, and the other would follow suit. Below the platform were a crowd of people wearing the same gray-colored imperial bodyguard uniforms. Once a brilliant bout of sparring occurred, they would all shout and yell praises. It was extremely lively. When Jing Shao came, he just happened to see that the broadsword-wielding competitor had been thrown off the stage by his opponent. The winner's sudden powerful thrust that caught his adversary off guard was quite beautiful. "Good. Your Highness." Only then did everyone notice the arrival of their master, and they all knelt down to pay respects one by one. A man dressed in black practice clothing with a lanky stature walked out from the crowd and knelt down on one knee in front of Jing Shao and said, "This subordinate was not aware of His Highness' arrival, please excuse this one for not going out to meet you, hoping for His Highness' forgiveness." "You rascal, what are you acting that way for?" Jing Shao permitted everyone to rise and gave the man's head a slap. This man dressed in black was the commander that everyone spoke of. This villa housed the 200 guards who belonged to the Prince Wang's inner circle of guards. Renfeng was the commander of these guards. He, Renfeng smiled and stood up. The scar that cut across his left eyebrow to the other corner of his face made him look rather scary, but the way his face became round when he smiled actually made him seem rather simple and honest. Last time, Steward Yun said the subordinate was unrefined and do not observe proper decorum, so this subordinate wanted to learn some of those high-ranking officers' etiquette. Jing Hao raised his eyebrows and said, "Is that so?" After he finished speaking, he gave him a slap again, grabbed his collar and dragged him onto the stage. "Don't try bother with those useless things, "Come accompany this Prince Cheng to loosen his muscles and bones." Renfeng immediately complained, "Your Highness, this subordinate has just fought for 4 hours. Less nonsense." Jing Shao ignored his complaint and just threw him a weapon. He lifted the broadsword and charged forth to slash with the huge sword. By noon, Jing Shao had really not managed to return to the residence. Mu Hanzhong had lunch by himself and then he went to the small study room with great enthusiasm. He threw the book with the painted peony flower on the side. There was a rack of books in the study that did not belong to him. He have not had a chance to examine them carefully. Jing Shao said last night that this small study would belong to him from now on and that he could read all of the books there as he pleased. Besides some of the new travel recollection essays he had read yesterday, it seemed that there were some books here that he had already read. Mu Hanzhong guessed that the books Jing Shao placed here before were the books that he didn't usually use but hadn't yet stored away in the Yinfeng Pavilion's main study. He reached out and took out a set of books wrapped in blue-colored hard leather and put it on the desk. He slid out one volume out of the set to take a look. It turned out to be a set of military books. But come to think of it, it would be strange if there were poetry verses in Jing Shao's study. Slowly opening it up, Mu Hanzhong could not help but widen his eyes. Between the orderly lines of black text were numerous, densely packed annotations written in vermilion ink. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 12, Serving at the Bedside. The vermilion calligraphy on it was visibly crooked and immature. Looking at it, this book seems to have been around for some years. Mu Hanzhong flipped through the whole set of books one by one. It turned out that he was already working so hard since he was very young. It was no wonder that Jing Shao was able to defeat the Xiongnu in his teens and have risen above his 2 imperial brothers by receiving an imperial prince title before them. "Your Highness, this servant went to go ask Sister Zhi. Yunzu bounced in and moved in front of the desk while grinning. "What did you ask her?" Upon seeing his grin, Mu Hanzhong put the book in his hand with the rest of the volumes and returned it to its original place. Previously, the schedule for attending His Highness' bedside was set by the secondary consort. Each month she would get 20 days and the other 2 concubines would get 4 each. Yunzu recalled Zhi's expression as she said this and couldn't help but snicker. Those 8 days are when the secondary wife was having her monthly period. Mu Hanzhong glanced at his young manservant who had a face with an evil smile and helplessly shook his head. Having an unmarried maiden like Zhi to explain these kinds of things, he really was. However, His Highness Prince Cheng has been out fighting wars all year round, and has rarely stayed overnight in the west courtyard. Yunzu was afraid that his master would be uncomfortable in his heart, so he quickly added the sentence. "So young yet already so crafty, you understand a lot." Mu Hanzhong knocked on Yunzu's head. "Of course, my uncle said that in a couple of years, it will be about time to find me a wife." Yunzu shook his head proudly and picked up the book on the side. "The prince consort doesn't have the issue of monthly period. Why not arrange for His Highness to come to the east courtyard for 25 days and the other 4 days to be given to the others, 1 each? How could that be?" Mu Hanzhong broke into laughter. If he arranged it like this, he was afraid that very quickly, rumors would be spread about him envying the benevolent and thus, create an unfavorable reputation for himself. Although, thinking of the pain he had suffered in the bridal chambers that day, he still had lingering fears. If he had to go through that for most of the month, it would just be too hard to bear. Furrowing his brows, he opened the peony flower book. All of the previous records were all there, and they were according to the same way that he had heard from Yunzu. In between the pages of the book were some papers where Lady Song had written the new arrangements she had devised. In it, she more or less split the schedule by the 15th of each month. In the first half of the month, Prince Cheng would spend it in the East Court with him, and in the second half of the month, the secondary consort would get 9 days while each of the other 2 concubines would get 3 days. Which family's principal wife doesn't have at least 18 days reserved? The secondary consort really schemed well. Yunzu stood on the side and couldn't help but curl his lips. In these 2 years that the secondary consort have been managing the household, his monthly allowance of silver had never risen. The red envelope he received at the end of the year was less each year. Yet the few chambermaids she brought with her had quite a comfortable and lucrative job. All the servants in the prince's estate were long unsatisfied with her. Mu Hanjiang raised his eyebrows. Contrary to others' belief, this arrangement was actually not bad for him. So, he took the writing brush and, using powerful yet elegant calligraphy, copied word for word the secondary consort's arrangements in the painted peony flower book. When Jing Shao came back, it was already dark. He first took a bath to wash away the sweat and mud he acquired, then changed into a loose casual attire. "Your Highness, Master Li came again today." This subordinate responded to him in accordance to His Highness' instructions. After dinner, Steward Yun came over and reported to Jing Shao about the visitor who came over that day. "I understand." After saying that, Jing Shao dealt with a few things and dismissed Steward Yun. Then he stretched, really wanting to just go lie down on the bed. "We just ate, Your Highness. You will get an indigestion." Mu Hanzhang stepped forward and pulled at him, stopping him from laying down. "En? But I am tired." Jing Hao was not willing. Today, after sparring so much in a day, his body was feeling sore. Mu Hanjiang saw that his husband's face was devoid of expression, but his eyes were actually full of dissatisfaction. His husband was like a child who was forced to get up from bed early. He resisted the urge to reach out and rub his husband's head. He pulled him over to sit on the soft divan and said, "Lean against this to help your digestion." Jing Shao blinked. Jun Qing was worrying about him. Due to this thought, his previous dissatisfaction immediately vanished. He pulled his prince consort to lean on the soft divan together with him and said, "As long as we're not taking a walk." Mu Hanjiang couldn't help but laugh as he sat up. As someone who always seized opportunities, Jing Shao took advantage and laid down across his husband's thighs and said, "Jun Qing, can you help me massage my shoulders? They ache so much. This one is not a servant girl and don't know how to do this." Though Mu Hanjiang said this, but he still pressed his hand on his husband's shoulder. Hiss, when he was pressed on a certain place, Jing Hao suddenly sucked in some cold air. "Does it hurt?" Mu Hanjiang was startled. He didn't actually use much strength, how could he have hurt him? It might be bruised." Jing Shao said vaguely, not minding it at all. "Did Your Highness went to practice martial arts today?" Mu Hanjiang frowned. Opening up some of his collar, he saw a large patch of bruised flesh. Seeing this, he could only just summon someone to bring some medicated oil to help him circulate his blood. The warm and slender fingers that were moistened with the cooling medicated oil made contact with his skin, and Jing Shao couldn't help but hold his breath. When the hand rubbed at where his bruise was, he could imagine the shape of that slender, beautiful hands that was without any calluses. Jing Shao couldn't help but grab his wife's other hand in front of him. Under the light of the candle, the slender and beautiful hand looked flawless. Dispersed among the lustrous and soft skin, one could see several inconspicuous blue-green blood veins through his jade-like skin. Each slender finger was long like a stalk of jade-colored spring onion, and the nails are smooth and tidy. Putting it in the palm of your hand and kneading it felt very pleasant, so he couldn't help but pull it to his lips and gently nibble on it. "Your Highness." Mu Hanjiang was startled and quickly retracted his hand. "Jun Qing's hand is so beautiful." Jing Hao turned his body over and looked at him innocently. Feeling helpless, Mu Hanjiang assisted his husband to put his robes in order and said, "Today, Lady Song came over to discuss the management of the household. Right now, it is the middle of the 3rd month, so there are many things going on in the residence. Seeing that she is willing to take care of it, this consort thinks to just let her manage it for a few more months." Jing Shao frowned upon hearing this. He lifted his eyes to look at his wife's expression, but seeing that he was maintaining a mild expression, he could not make anything out of it. Lady Song saying these words at this time was only her not wanting to hand over any power. However, if she was continued to be allowed to manage the household, Jun Qing's reputation within the residence would be very much affected. He didn't believe that Jun Qing, who was this smart, would not be able to tell. He couldn't help but sigh and said, "You are the prince consort and these things should be done in accordance to your wishes. If you find it too much of a bother, then let Duo Fu handle it. I will have Song Lingzin turn over all the accounting books to you tomorrow." Having said so much these 2 days, Jun Qing was still sounding out my attitude towards him. Jing Xiao felt a little tired. Now that the rumors of his brutality have begun to spread in the capital, no one in this world was willing to trust in him. He silently got up. Jing Xiao did not look again at his wife, who was on the divan. He just took off his outer robes and climbed onto the bed. "Your Highness," Mu Hanzhong looked at Jing Hao's back and felt a little ache in his heart. He realized that he was hurt by his pretentious words. He pursed his lips and also followed him onto the bed. Holding onto the arm of the person whose back was to him, he said, "Your Highness, this consort did not mean to imply anything. As for the turning over of the account books, this one can first look at the accounting books of the previous years. It is better for the most recent account book to be handed over next month. Otherwise, some mishap may arise since this consort is not yet familiar with them." His husband was facing the wall and did not answer. He shook his arm, but he still did not reply. Mu Hanzhong moved over and sneakily glanced at Jing Xiao's face. He saw that his eyes were closed and quietly called out, "Xiao, did you hear me?" "Didn't hear it." Jing Xiao turned his body back a little, but behind him was his wife. As he moved, he accidentally caused his wife to lose his balance and fell on top of him. Thus, he took this opportunity to bury his face into the pillow, and stopped moving. The man on top of him couldn't help but release a muffled laugh as he said, "Then this consort will say it again. Tomorrow, this one will have them take out the account books from previous years for me to study them. On the first day of the next month, this one will have the second consort hand over all the account books." Hearing this, Jing Xiao's heart finally calmed down. With a flip of his body, he pressed the person who was on top of him under his body. Your Highness," Mu Hanzhong didn't know how they suddenly end up in such an ambiguous position. Jing Xiao wrinkled his brow and looked at that small, slightly parted pale lips and bent over, pressing his own lips onto them. Mu Hanzhong's eyes widened, not knowing how to react. He only felt that the soft and warm lips were imprinted on his own. It was just a light touch like that of a dragonfly on water, but to him it felt like a long time. "This is punishment. In the future, the next time you try to speak ambiguously with me, you will get one punishment for each sentence." Jing Xiao smiled, feeling pleased with himself. Mu Hanzhong was speechless, so he could only turn his head, refusing to look at him, yet his entire handsome face was flushed thoroughly with a bashful red. Seeing him like this, Jing Xiao only felt a stirring in his heart. He couldn't help but kiss him again on his cheek. Then he followed along to his face and slid down his chin, nipping softly at his neck. Mu Hanzhong's body couldn't help but tremble, his breathing had also become shorter and faster. "Your Highness, don't, Jing Hao had already pulled away his lapel, finally kissing his collarbone. Hearing those words, he took a bite from the beautiful collarbones and said, "Call me Xiao." Mu Hanzhong heard the breathing of the person on top of his body got rougher and heavier, and felt the changes in his body at the root of his leg. His own body immediately stiffened. "Xiao, don't." In his voice, Jing Xiao heard fear. Jing Xiao lifted his head to look at his husband and saw that his originally blushing countenance had become pale. He could not help but sigh and rolled over to lay on his side on the bed. Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips. As a wife, refusing to be intimate with one's husband was not right. However, his experience of that night was too terrible. Even if he knew that he was in the wrong, he did not speak again and just tightly grasped the corner of the quilt. When a servant girl saw what time it was, she extinguished the lights outside. The inside of the room suddenly darkened. The servant girl on night duty went in with light steps and light hands to gently put down the curtain, and then quickly retreated outside. Jing Xiao willed his body to calm down. When he felt that the heat in his body had retreated, he reached out with his hand to pull the stiff body of his husband into the blankets. "I'm sorry," Jing Xiao heard the person next to him said quietly. In the darkness, he smiled as he gathered the other man into an embrace, saying, "Let's sleep, it's nothing." End chapter.